My husband's first love caught a cold, and he locked me in the freezer, bolting the door shut. Annie caught a chill. You must suffer tenfold for it, he declared. I had recently suffered a miscarriage. My body was weak, my lower abdomen ached fiercely, and I could hardly stand. The freezer's frigid temperature was unbearable. Hunched over in pain, I wept and begged Derk for mercy, admitting fault. But he merely sneered, his face full of disdain. You're still trying to deceive me, aren't you? Trying to pin the blame on Annie for your miscarriage? Clearly, you still don't understand what you did wrong. Reflect on it in there, he said coldly, before shoving me into the freezer and locking the door from the outside. Inside, my ears froze and broke off, rolling to the floor with a crisp sound. My fingers stiffened, unable to curl, and frost covered my face. My body was riddled with painful, frost-bitten bruises. By the next day, Derk finally remembered me and decided to let me out. But he had no idea that I had already succumbed to the cold hours ago. Why hasn't Emily caused a scene after coming out? Isn't she always so good at playing the victim? Derk's secretary, Secretary Leo, hesitated for a moment, his expression uneasy. Mr. Carter, Miss Emily, she hasn't come out yet. A flicker of concern flashed across Derk's eyes, but was quickly masked by his usual indifference. Clearing his throat, he said, It's just a chilled storage room, not a deep freeze one. One day won't hurt her. At most, it'll be a lesson. She's had it too easy for too long, always picking fights with Annie. Let her reflect on her actions. Secretary Leo frowned, clearly conflicted, before speaking in a low voice. Mr. Carter, there's been no sound from the freezer. Miss Emily is still recovering from her miscarriage. I'm afraid she might not be able to hold on. At the mention of the miscarriage, Derk's face darkened with disgust. What miscarriage? She's nothing but a liar, faking a pregnancy. If Annie hadn't caught her at the hospital, I might have actually believed her. She wanted to pin the blame on Annie, claiming she pushed her, leading to a miscarriage. But she was never pregnant to begin with, just trying to gain my sympathy and frame Annie. Emily is so conniving, truly despicable. His voice carried a venomous chill as he spat out his words. Secretary Leo seemed like he wanted to say more, but Derk cut him off sharply. Enough. I don't want to hear anything more about her. Just hearing her name dirties my ears. A woman as malicious as her, she's lucky to get off with just this punishment. When she comes out, she'd better apologize to Annie properly. If it weren't for her, Annie wouldn't have had to go out in the middle of the night and catch a cold. As they spoke, Anna entered the study, draped in a blanket. Her pale cheeks were tinged with a sickly flush, her damp hair framing her delicate face. Her tearful, doe-like eyes made her look as fragile as a startled rabbit. Even as a ghost, I couldn't help but feel pity for her. Yes, I was dead. The moment my breathing stopped, I was freed from my body, observing everything from above in a detached, godlike perspective. My lifeless body was covered in frost, my lips blackened, my face frozen in a grotesque smile. My ears, having snapped off, lay on the ground, and my fingers were twisted unnaturally. The most horrifying sight was my brain. The low temperatures had caused my brain cells to swell, cracking my skull open. The brain's intricate folds were visible from the outside. I only managed to glance at the scene before squeezing my eyes shut. It was too ghastly, even for a ghost. As Anna entered, Derk's expression softened immediately. His earlier disdain was replaced with tenderness and concern. Anna, why are you here at the office? I told you to rest at home. Don't worry, I've already locked Emily in the freezer. This time, she won't get away with it. Once she's reflected on her actions, I'll make her apologize to you. I won't let you suffer anymore. Derek gently placed his hand on Anna's forehead, checking if her fever had gone down. Anna lightly grasped his hand, her voice soft and sweet as she said, "Emily only acts this way because she cares too much about you. Don't be too harsh on her. If she apologizes, I'll forgive her. It's okay. Don't let this affect your relationship with your wife." Anna's understanding demeanor only deepened Derek's guilt and affection for her, while his hatred for me grew more intense. "Anna, you're too kind. That's why she keeps taking advantage of you. But I won't let her bully you again." Looking at Derek, the man I had loved for 10 years, I felt nothing but despair. "It won't happen again, Derek. Not ever again." I couldn't bear to watch their intimate scene any longer, but I couldn't leave. I didn't know why, but ever since my death, my soul seemed bound to Derek. I couldn't escape, no matter how hard I tried. Resigned, I continued to watch as the two poured their hearts out to each other. Anna leaned weakly against Derek's chest, coughing softly. Derek's brow furrowed deeply, his worry apparent. "Where does it hurt?" "You're so stubborn, coming to the office even when you're unwell." Anna bit her lip, her flushed cheeks growing redder from the coughing. "When I woke up, the house was empty. You weren't there." I was scared. Hearing this, Derek's heart ached even more. He pulled her tightly into his arms. "It's all that wretched woman's fault. If it weren't for her, you wouldn't have gone out in the middle of the night. How could you catch a cold and run a fever, Anna? You've truly been wronged. If she dared to let you get sick, I'll make her pay back 10-fold, 100-fold. Don't worry, I've already punished her severely. You should have seen how pathetic she looked, crying and begging me. It was laughable." His words cut through me like a blade. I used to think a soul couldn't feel pain, but my chest clenched so tightly it left me numb. Derek's mockery wasn't wrong. I really did beg him, tears streaming down my face. It was the 3rd day after my miscarriage. My body was weak, bleeding hadn't stopped, and the pain in my abdomen felt like a blender tearing me apart from the inside. The doctor told me the miscarriage had severely damaged my body and warned that I might struggle to conceive again. I needed to rest. I knew how much Derek wanted a child. So when Anna framed me, accusing me of faking a pregnancy, he was furious. The cold storage was freezing and my body couldn't take it. I clung to his leg, pleading desperately as he dragged me into the freezing room. But he kicked me away mercilessly, his voice cold and damning like a demon from the depths of hell. "Scared now? Anna ran out into the cold night because you falsely accused her. Do you know how terrified she must have been? Relax, this is a cold storage room. It's only 5 degrees. It won't kill you. Use this time to reflect on your sins. You will pay for the dirty tricks you played on Anna." Through sobs, I tried to explain. I didn't frame Anna. I didn't fake my pregnancy. It was Anna who caused my miscarriage. But my words only deepened the disgust on Derek's face. "Looks like you don't think you've done anything wrong. Even now, you still won't admit it." Ignoring my cries and screams, he slammed the door shut and locked it. The world outside grew silent, leaving me alone with the sound of my own weeping echoing in the freezing space. I stood there, numb, forcing myself to recall Derek's cruelty, replaying it in my mind like a punishment. Suddenly, Derek's voice yanked me back to the present. "Get Emily out of there and drag her here to apologize." His voice was icy, making Leo flinch. Anna, however, playfully nudged Derek, her face lighting up with a sweet smile. "You're so scary, Derek. You even frightened me. But please, don't fight with Emily because of me. Do you think she'll be mad at me for this?" Hearing my name only deepened the loathing on Derek's face. "Mad at you? She doesn't have that right. It's already merciful of me not to make her kneel and beg for your forgiveness. She faked a pregnancy to deceive me and used despicable tactics to slander you, making you run out into the night. I can't imagine how desperate you must have felt all alone out there. I thought I'd lost you forever. Locking her up for just one day is letting her off easy. The more Derek spoke, the angrier he became. His expression darkened, as though he wished he could tear me apart. But that day was the second day after my miscarriage. I had been resting at home when Anna came over, taunting me with her scornful words. Go ahead, tell Derek. Tell him I pushed you, that I killed your baby. See if he'll believe you. Oh, wait, he didn't even believe you were pregnant. He only believes me. I was feeling so unwell that I asked the housekeeper to escort her out. Later that night, Anna intentionally wandered outside, catching a chill and falling ill. She texted Derek, playing the victim. I heard Emily wasn't feeling well, so I went to check on her, but she said such horrible things to me. Derek, maybe I should leave your life. I shouldn't come between you two anymore. But it hurts so much, Derek. Am I really going to lose you? Derek had been working late at the office, but after reading her message, he rushed out to find her. Eventually, he found Anna passed out on the roadside with a high fever. Even during his search, he managed to call me. Emily, if anything happens to Anna, you'll pay with your life. So, dragging my frail body, I went out with the housekeeper to look for her. When Derek finally found Anna and picked her up in his arms, I stood not far away, watching his face filled with worry. Anna, I'm here. Don't be scared. Please, Anna, don't leave me. I nearly collapsed on the spot. The housekeeper had to use all her strength to keep me upright. Ma'am, are you okay? I shook my head weakly. Let's go back. He found her. That's enough. But I was too naive. I thought that finding her would be the end of it. When Derek dragged me into the cold storage, his voice was filled with venom. How dare you treat Anna like that? She's always had a weak constitution, her lungs aren't strong, and yet you let her go out into the cold night? You should be thankful she didn't develop pneumonia. If she had, this cold storage would have been the least of your worries. Reflect on your sins in here, then come out and apologize to Anna. Even now, he's waiting for me to apologize to Anna. But Derek, what do I do? You'll be waiting forever. The door to Derek's office was suddenly flung open, and Leo rushed in, his face pale with panic. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott. Derek frowned, irritation evident. Where's Emily? Why are you here alone? Is she still refusing to apologize? Leo's trembling voice interrupted him, filled with shock and fear. Sir, Miss Emily, she's dead. For one fleeting moment, I had foolishly hoped Derek might feel a pang of sorrow for me, even just for a second. But his reaction shattered me once again. He laughed, as though he'd just heard the most absurd joke. His face was full of disdain. Oh, she's really taking this drama to the next level, isn't she? Faking a pregnancy wasn't enough. Now she wants to fake her death too. Framing. Faking her death. Just how many tricks does she have up her sleeve to win favor? Drag her over here to apologize immediately, or the punishment will be far worse. Derek's voice was icy as his fingers toyed with a strand of Anna's hair, twisting it around his fingertips. Tell her my patience is limited. Don't test my temper again. Even if Annie forgives her, I won't. Leo stood awkwardly, unsure where to place his hands. He opened his mouth to speak, but Derek cut him off coldly. Why are you still standing there? Get moving. After Leo left, Derek shifted slightly, making it easier for Anna to lean on him. Emily never tires of these petty tricks. It's disgusting. Anna, don't forgive her so easily this time. Your kindness is what lets her keep crossing the line. But to me, you are the most precious thing in this world. No one is allowed to hurt you. Anna looked conflicted. Derek, after all, she's your wife. But Derek interrupted her firmly. To me, you're what matters most. She is nothing. Listening to his words, I no longer even had the strength to cry. Derk. For 12 long years, I loved him. From the moment I saw him during college registration, it was love at first sight. For the next 8 years, I chased after him, which led to 4 years of marriage. I never imagined it would come to this. When my parents died in a car accident, it was the darkest moment of my life. It was then that Derk wrapped his arms around me and said, "Emily, let's get married. Let me take care of you. You won't be without a home. We'll have a home of our own." That day, I cried uncontrollably. I cried for the loss of my parents and for finally having Derk in my life. Back then, I truly believed he was my salvation. But only after my death did I see the truth. Derk had married me not out of love, but because my parents were gone and he wanted to claim everything I had inherited as their only child. My family's company, the assets, those were what he truly desired. Yet at the time, I genuinely believed I was loved. Over 4 years, he ran the company admirably. He'd bring me a bouquet of flowers after work and remember every little thing I mentioned wanting. If I fell ill, he'd stay up all night to care for me. I can still clearly remember the day I told Derk I was pregnant. His excitement was palpable. He swept me off my feet and spun me around, only to stop abruptly when he remembered I was pregnant. Then he gently cradled my belly, terrified he'd hurt the little life inside me. I laughed at him for overreacting, but he looked so proud. "This is our baby," he said. "You can never be too careful with something so precious." But everything shattered when Anna appeared. She didn't even need to do anything. Just standing there was enough to make Derk crumble. 12 years of love and effort were obliterated in an instant. When Anna told him I was faking my pregnancy, Derk didn't bother to verify the truth. He didn't listen to my side or look at the hospital reports. To him, my fate was sealed. Even our child was dismissed. If the pregnancy was fake, then the miscarriage must have been fake too. So when I accused Anna of causing my miscarriage, Derk unconditionally sided with her. He believed I was a vicious woman, someone who would fake a pregnancy and miscarriage just to win his attention. I stood there, frozen, as Derk's impatient voice cut through my thoughts. "Why isn't she here yet? It's been long enough. What's with all the attitude? Does she think she's a princess? She still doesn't understand her place, does she? Clearly, she hasn't thought about what she's done wrong." I stood still, unmoving, watching Derk coldly. He didn't seem to realize it himself, but his voice had started to tremble. Derk, what are you afraid of?" He shoved Anna aside, his hands trembling uncontrollably. "Anna, wait here. I'll go see what's taking her so long. Don't worry, I'll make her apologize to you. I won't let you suffer in vain." With that, he strode toward the cold storage room without a backward glance at Anna. He didn't see the brief panic that flickered across her face. Several dozen feet from the cold storage room, a woman's body lay sprawled near the entrance. From a distance, Derk couldn't make out the details, but he stumbled back a step, nearly losing his balance. Thankfully, Leo caught him just in time. "What is that? Who's lying there?" Leo's face was full of unease, and his voice trembled with fear. "Mr. Taylor, you should see for yourself." I stood nearby, hesitating whether to follow them. I had already seen the state of my own body once and wasn't eager for another look. Steeling himself, Derk approached the body. Despite myself, my soul followed him, drawn to the lifeless form that had once been me. It must have been Leo who dragged me out here. I lay face down on the ground, utterly lifeless. Derk stood over my body, looking down at it with cold detachment. He didn't even spare the corpse a glance of pity. "Why are you still lying there? Get up. Haven't you had enough time in the cold? Want to go back in?" I nearly burst out laughing but managed to hold it in. How could I not have had enough of this? I was done with it a long time ago. In my final moments before losing consciousness, I fantasized about Derek descending from the heavens to open that door and save me. But he never came. Not until my death did I see that door open. Emily, I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? Derek's voice pierced the cold silence. Let me warn you, my patience has limits. I lay motionless on the ground, unresponsive. Leo stood by, too afraid to utter a word. Derek, his temper boiling, lashed out violently, kicking me hard. Get up, Emily. Anna is waiting for your apology. Don't think you can play dead and get away with this. His kick was so forceful that the flesh on my back caved in. My lifeless body, frozen in death, had softened after thawing, and his blow left it grotesquely disfigured. Even Derek was taken aback. He stumbled 2 steps backward, his face a mixture of shock and confusion as he stared at the horrific sight. What the hell is this? Who put this here? Is this some stupid prank by Emily? Does she think she can fool me with a mannequin? Ridiculous. I sighed from the sidelines, thinking, is he pretending to be clueless, or is he genuinely that dumb? I was lying right there, yet he still thought it was a mannequin. Leo, unable to bear the scene any longer, closed his eyes as if shielding himself from the absurdity before him. Mr. Hayes, my condolences. That's Emily. She's gone. Derek's expression darkened. He spun around, his fist flying into Leo's face. Caught off guard, Leo was sent sprawling onto the ground. You're in on this too, Leo. Who do you work for, huh? Where is she? Get her here now. Don't think hiding will make me let this go. Derek snarled. Leo sat on the floor, biting his lip, his head bowed in silence. Derek didn't spare him another glance, nor did he care about my lifeless form on the ground. He stormed out of the room, barking orders. Find her. I don't care where she is, dead or alive. Bring her to me. His voice echoed as he left. I, now a wandering spirit, followed him out of the cold storage, observing him as he frantically made phone calls, notifying everyone to search for me. His desperation was laughable. I couldn't contain myself any longer and let out a cold chuckle. Derek Hayes, oh Derek Hayes. Dead or alive, you say? My corpse is right there, and you didn't even have the guts to turn me over. Now you're putting on this ridiculous show. Anna, startled by Derek's furious demeanor, timidly approached him. Is Emily still refusing to apologize? It's okay, Derek. Don't be angry. I'm scared, she said, her voice trembling. Her worried expression seemed to momentarily calm Derek. His gaze softened as he gently stroked her hair. I'm not angry, Annie. She's not worth my anger. But this time, she's gone too far, faking her death to dodge responsibility. Don't worry, I'll make sure she apologizes to you. If I could touch him in my ghostly form, I'd have punched him square in the face. Asterisk Derek Hayes, are you insane? My corpse is lying right there, and you're still spewing this nonsense? I'm dead, yet you still want me to apologize to your precious Anna, asterisk. I stood beside them, watching coldly as they interacted, feeling like the world's biggest joke. Just then, one of Derek's other assistants knocked on the office door and entered. Mr. Hayes, the security footage from outside the cold storage has been sent to your email. Hearing this, Derek quickly walked to his desk, opened his laptop, and played the video. The footage showed me pleading with Derek to let me go, begging him not to lock me in the cold storage. Even Secretary Leo, hearing my cries through the laptop speakers, furrowed his brows and closed his eyes, unable to bear it. The video showed the moment Derek slammed the door shut, cutting off my desperate screams. After all, the cold storage was soundproof. The footage then sped up, showing nothing but silence from the moment Derek locked the door until Leo opened it today. Not a single fly had passed by, let alone the miraculous escape Derek was imagining. Yet even with such irrefutable evidence before him, Derek refused to believe it. The footage hasn't changed since I left? Who'd believe such an amateur editing job? The entire secretary team should be fired for this nonsense. And as for Emily, she's gotten smarter. Swapping the footage ahead of time? How clever. He slammed his fist onto the desk, shouting, "Get out. All of you." The secretary, visibly shaken, scrambled out of the office. Anna's face crumpled, tears welling up in her eyes. "Derek, what's wrong? Don't be like this." "You're scaring me," she whimpered. Hearing her trembling voice, Derek's anger dissipated instantly. He pulled Anna into his arms, gently comforting her. "Annie, don't be afraid. I'm just furious at how despicable Emily is. How could she sink so low? She'd rather fake her death than apologize to you. I should have seen her for the manipulative woman she is. Compared to you, Emily is worse than trash." Listening to his words, Anna couldn't hide her delight. Raising her hand, Emily wrapped her arms around Derek's waist. "Derek, thank you for always keeping me in your heart." Watching this scene brimming with affection, I felt no ripples in my emotions. I had always known about Anna's existence, and I knew they were each other's first love. How did I fall for Derek? It was on the day of freshman registration when I was blocked by a few senior students. They claimed they wanted to be friends with me, but in reality, they tried to drag me to a bar. It was Derek, also a freshman, who saved me from their clutches. From that day on, the seniors began targeting him intentionally, but he remained silent, focusing solely on his studies. To an 18-year-old me, he was the first breathtaking sight of my youth. But back then, Anna was already by his side. So I stayed as just a friend until we graduated from university. When Anna left for another country with a wealthy man, Derek finally noticed my presence. Later, after my parents died in a car accident, Derek and I naturally got married. I saw him as the only light in my life. At that time, I could never have imagined that the light I thought would guide me forever would extinguish the last glimmer of hope in my life. Night fell. Anna had already left. Derek sat alone at his desk, with Secretary Leo standing silently by his side, biting his lip and saying nothing. After a long pause, Derek's deep voice echoed in the office, "Have you found her yet?" Secretary Leo hesitated before finally breaking the silence. "Mr. Derek, Miss Emily is still at the freezer door." Derek slammed his fist onto the desk, his face dark and menacing. "You really don't want this job anymore, do you? Still helping her lie to me? Let's see how far you all can go with this act." With those words, Derek strode out of the office and headed for the freezer. The moment the lights switched on, I saw my body still lying quietly there. Unlike during the day, my body had now completely thawed. Large, discolored bruises had appeared all over, and beneath me was a massive, foul-smelling pool of blood. That blood came from the uterine lining that froze to death during the process. I had recently had a miscarriage and hadn't fully expelled the lochia. Coupled with the freezing, the scene was horrifying to the extreme. Derek frowned, covering his nose as he approached, his face filled with disgust. "So, Emily came back midway, didn't she? Trying to make the scene look more realistic?" He glanced around the room, seemingly searching for me. "Don't think hiding will solve everything. You'd better stay hidden forever and never come out." Secretary Leo finally couldn't hold back and spoke up. "Mr. Derek, this really is Miss Emily." Derek let out a cold snort, but his voice carried an unnoticeable tremor. She was such a clean freak. How could she die in such a disgraceful manner? Hearing his words, I looked down at my body on the ground and sneered. Derek was putting it too mildly. This wasn't just disgraceful, it was utterly filthy and revolting. He slowly crouched down next to my body, seemingly holding his breath to avoid the stench. With a hesitant hand, as if steeling himself for something, he flipped my body over in one swift motion. My face was now fully exposed to his view. He recoiled in horror, falling to the ground, landing directly in the pool of blood. His eyes widened in shock, his face pale. No, this isn't Emily. It can't be. Curious, I leaned forward to take a look at myself. My face, thawed, had turned into a mushy mass of flesh, with my features distorted beyond recognition. It looked as though it would disintegrate with the slightest touch. My head was even more grotesque. The frozen brain cells had expanded, cracking open my skull. This sight would undoubtedly haunt Derek in his nightmares. Secretary Leo, too, shut his eyes tightly, unable to bear another glance. Derek seemed to want to touch my face, but his hand hovered in midair, neither advancing nor retreating. How is this possible? This is a refrigeration unit. At 5 degrees above freezing, how could she die? Hearing Derek's words, I too was puzzled. When he dragged me into the freezer, I clearly heard him say it was set to refrigeration mode. But just minutes after he locked the door, I realized something was wrong. Enduring the piercing cold, I stumbled to the wall where the temperature display was located. The screen unmistakably read, -20 degrees Fahrenheit. This was a deep freezer's temperature. As if grasping onto this thought, Derek appeared to regain some confidence. He shook his head vehemently. Right, this isn't Emily. No one dies at 5 degrees. Secretary Leo finally erupted, shouting at Derek, Mr. Derek, this is really Ms. Emily. When I opened the freezer, the temperature was -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything inside was frozen solid. The room fell silent, so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Derek seemed to lose all strength in an instant, clutching his head in his hands. His lips trembled as he muttered to himself, but he didn't dare look at my body again. How could this happen, Emily? How could you bear to leave me? Didn't you say you'd stay with me forever? How could you die? You were just jealous, weren't you? Why are you so petty? Why couldn't you tolerate Annie? At this point, he suddenly lifted his head, glaring at me with hatred. You did this on purpose, you vile woman. Faking a pregnancy to gain attention wasn't enough for you. Slandering Anna wasn't enough for you. Now you've gone as far as to end your life. Did you think that by doing this, I would never forget you? Did you think this would make you surpass Annie? Emily, keep dreaming. Hearing those words, I didn't feel the slightest sadness anymore. I only found myself ridiculous. 12 years of my life, all for what? A joke. Derek suddenly seemed to lose his mind. He flipped over, knelt beside me, and tried to lift my lifeless body. Emily, did you hear me? I said you're dreaming. So, even if you die, it's pointless. Get up. If you get up now, I might consider forgiving you. But a body frozen to death, once thawed, becomes weak and decayed. Wherever he touched me, the flesh collapsed into a mushy mess. As he shouted furiously, he kept repeating the same actions. An unbearable anger surged in me. What's wrong with you, Derek? I'm already dead. Can't you let me have a shred of dignity? Must you destroy my body like this? At that moment, Leo's sorrowful voice broke through the chaos. Mr. Derek, let Miss Emily rest in peace. I looked at Leo with appreciation. He was like my voice of reason. Derek froze as if someone had pressed pause on him. His hands stopped moving, and he stood there, stunned. Moments later, he jumped to his feet and ran out. You're afraid I'll blame you, so you died, didn't you? That must be it. You coward, Emily. You couldn't even apologize. You're so guilty, aren't you? You hurt Annie, and your conscience couldn't take it, right? That's it. I'll find evidence of your maliciousness, you spineless woman who died out of guilt. Even in death, he was shifting all the blame onto me. I was so furious I wished I could turn into a vengeful spirit and haunt him. What a pathetic excuse of a man, Derek. I had no choice but to follow him, unable to do anything but listen to his mutterings as he ran. I'll find proof you committed suicide out of guilt, Emily. I won't let you off so easily. How do you leave so effortlessly? Just wait, Emily. I'll expose your deceitful heart to everyone. I was seething with anger at Derek's shameless words. All I could do was curse him repeatedly in my mind, praying that the police would arrest him soon. Or, if not, that the heavens would grant me the power to become a vengeful ghost so I could end this despicable man myself. The moment he entered the house, Derek ignored the housekeeper's protests and stormed into the master bedroom, rummaging through everything. I crossed my arms and watched coldly. Go ahead, search. I have nothing to hide. The one who should apologize, the one who deserves hell, it was never me. With trembling hands, Derek pulled a pink diary from the nightstand. But he didn't open it. His hands shook as he held it, too afraid to look inside. I sneered coldly. What's wrong, Derek? What are you afraid of? The diary held my joy from the day I found out I was pregnant. My little angel is finally here. Soon, we'll be a family of 3. Derek will definitely be happy too. The day Anna returned to the country, Derek went to accompany her. The diary recorded my attempts to comfort myself. It's okay, she's back. I'll wait at home with the baby for Daddy. When Anna accused me of faking my pregnancy and Derek blamed me, the diary was filled with my grievances. It's okay. Derek's just being silly. I'll show him the medical report tomorrow, and he'll believe me. It's okay, baby. Daddy's just a little foolish. He still loves you. The day I came home after losing the baby, the diary was filled with sorrow. I'm sorry, baby. Mommy couldn't protect you. Will you come back? Will you forgive Mommy? Every page of the diary was filled with my thoughts, whether joyful or sorrowful. Derek sat on the floor in a daze, seemingly at a loss for what to do. Every word in the diary was genuine. There was no way I could have predicted today's events and forged such a diary in advance. Beneath the diary was my pregnancy report. Just then, Leo's phone chimed with a message. He glanced at it, gritted his teeth, and turned to Derek. Mr. Derek, the surveillance footage from the back door of the cold storage just arrived. The video shows that right after you left, Anna sneaked to the back door. The footage clearly captures her adjusting the temperature. That's why the storage, set at 41 degrees Fahrenheit, dropped to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. The truth was undeniable. Anna had no defense. Derek stood up, his face expressionless, his eyes hollow. Where is Anna? Where is she? Leo made a call. Moments later, he hung up and looked at Derek. The driver said Miss Anna didn't go home. She went to a bar with friends. When Derek appeared in front of Anna, his face was as dark as a storm. Anna felt uneasy, but with her friends watching, she mustered the courage to approach him. Derek, what's wrong? Why are you here? What happened to you? You look terrible. Derek's voice was cold and menacing, like a demon from the depths of hell. Weren't you sick? Weren't you feeling unwell? Anna quickly raised her hand to explain, but Derek didn't give her the chance. He flung a stack of documents in her face. Papers scattered through the air as Anna's eyes widened in terror. This is what you call fake pregnancy. Anna quickly composed herself, still trying to defend her actions. Derek, listen to me. These reports are all fake. Everything is forged. You know better than anyone how shameless Emily can be. She's capable of anything. Derek suddenly grabbed Anna's chin tightly, cutting her off mid-sentence as he shoved his phone in her face. Then what's this? Why were you in the freezer? What were you doing with the temperature controls? Anna desperately clutched at Derek's hands, trying to pry them off. Derek, listen. I just wanted to teach her a lesson. I didn't expect you to leave her locked in there for an entire day. I never meant for her to die. Derek, I only did it because I love you so much. I was terrified of losing you. Hearing her finally admit it, a cold, relieved smile appeared on Derek's face. He abruptly let go, tossing Anna to the ground as if she were trash. Seeing him release her, Anna thought she saw a glimmer of hope. She crawled on her knees, clutching his leg. It's okay, Derek. No one will ever know about this. Let's leave this place together. We can go abroad, somewhere no one knows us. We'll never be apart again. Her voice cut off abruptly. She looked down in disbelief to see the jagged edge of a shattered wine bottle stabbed deep into her abdomen. For a moment, there was silence. Then, screams erupted all around them. But Derek seemed oblivious to the chaos surrounding him. He focused solely on the bottle in his hand, mechanically repeating the motion of pulling it out and stabbing it back in. Over and over again. Emily's punishment is complete, he murmured to himself. Now, this is your punishment. You killed her, and you'll pay with your life. Such a pity, you only get to die once. I guess I'll have to repay my child's life myself. Listening to his words, all I felt was bitter mockery. If I could still touch him, I'd slap him awake. Who was he trying to fool with this sudden display of devotion? Repayment? His life and Anna's life couldn't begin to compare to mine or my baby's. Perhaps it was Derek's expression or the blood smeared across his face, but no one around dared to step forward. They just stood there as Anna stopped struggling, her life slipping away entirely. Only then did Derek finally stop, tossing her lifeless body aside without a hint of emotion. He turned and walked away. My soul followed him as he drifted toward the freezer again. Death hadn't relieved me of exhaustion. I was utterly drained from chasing him around all day. Kneeling in front of my body, Derek finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Emily, let's go home. I've come to take you and our baby home. Let's go back. Emily, we're supposed to be together forever. You can't leave me. Watching his face covered in tears and snot, I felt nothing but disgust. Who was this act for? Justice that comes too late isn't justice. Love that comes too late is even worse, it's garbage. Just as I was thinking this, a group of police officers rushed into the freezer. Hands up, Derek. You're under suspicion for murder. Come with us. Derek didn't react as if he hadn't heard them. But just as they were about to touch him, he suddenly fought back like a man possessed, throwing himself over my body. Don't touch me. I'm staying with my wife. Emily hates the dark. She's scared. I need to stay with her. Get away. All of you, get away. No one's going to separate me from Emily. Even as the officers dragged him away, Derek struggled and roared like a madman. I'll kill you. All of you. You killed my wife. As the police car drove off into the distance, I was surprised to find that my soul no longer followed Derek. At that moment, two familiar figures appeared across the street. Tears streamed down my face. Dad. Mom. They walked toward me, gently stroking my hair. Come on, sweetheart, my mom said softly. Let's take you home. I smiled, nodding as tears fell to the ground. If death meant I could see my parents again, then maybe it wasn't so bad after all.